How to work out for muscle tone and definition versus for muscle mass. What's the difference? Is there a difference? Do different exercises make a difference? Longer or shorter rest times? Higher or lower rep ranges? This is one of the most commonly asked questions out there and leaves many people second guessing how they're spending their time working out at the gym to accomplish whatever their specific goal is. Here's the good news. If this is something that you found yourself to be confused about, you're in the right place. In this video, while showing you footage from my latest full body gym workout, I'm going to shed light on what the difference is between working out for muscle tone and definition versus for muscle mass. Before we get started, if you find yourself enjoying this video, please consider hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. It really helps me out. Okay, let's dive in. I'm going to start by concretely defining what the difference between muscle tone and definition is compared to muscle mass, or at least what I suspect most people would define the difference to be. When talking about the latter, muscle mass, it's typically referring to sheer muscle size without much thought toward the visual separation of your muscles. The term muscle mass seems to often be interchanged with something like muscle bulk. If you have a lot of muscle mass, for example, you might be referred to as being bulky. Muscle tone and definition is most often referring to a tighter kind of aesthetic, where there is less bulk but more separation between muscles. If you have a more toned and defined physique, for example, that seems to be most often associated with looking ripped, cut, or shredded, in opposed to bulky. But what exactly is the difference between the two? How can you focus more on accomplishing one look over the other? Simply put, building or developing muscle mass is merely done through building muscle, with having some body fat throughout the muscle growth process. Muscle mass just comes through building muscle. It's really that simple. And for the kind of bulky look, that means having some body fat on top of the muscle to cover the separation between your muscles, whilst also adding a bit more size or bulk to your physique. Muscle tone and definition comes from having muscle mass, but with less body fat on top of the muscle to reveal the separation between your muscles. That's all it is. So to clearly state the difference, building muscle mass or developing the bulky look is done simply through building muscle whilst having some body fat on your frame in the process, and developing muscle tone and definition, or having the ripped or cut aesthetic, comes through having muscle mass but being lean enough or having a low enough body fat percentage to see the separation between your muscles. This begs the question, how should you be spending your time at the gym to accomplish either of those two goals? The answer is, generally speaking, there isn't really any difference. While there might be some beneficial, nuanced differences depending on each unique individual and their very specific context, there isn't one type of working out that's better for either of those goals. You might have heard myths like higher rep sets with lighter weight is better for toning and defining, or lower rep sets for heavier weights are better for building muscle mass or becoming bulkier. But one doesn't do one job better than the other. Both rep ranges simply build muscle, which is important for either goal. What about keeping your heart rate up for your workouts or taking shorter rest times? Won't that make a difference? Won't that lead to more defined looking muscles? Well, it might lead to slightly more calories burned, but at the same time, it increases the probability that your muscles become less of the limiting factor of your exercises in favor of your cardio system failing first. But really, in general, all that does is stimulate your cardio system more and stimulates for muscle growth less. It doesn't directly lead to more tone and less mass, though. That's not really how it works. Okay, but what about certain exercises? Are some better for building muscle mass and others for muscle tone and definition? You might be able to guess the answer at this point. It's no. So, if there's not one way of working out that's better for one goal versus the other, what is the best way to prioritize developing muscle mass versus muscle tone and definition? Here's the very basic, straightforward, and clear answer. In both instances, you should aim to spend your time prioritizing muscle growth at the gym, since both goals involve having muscle. The main difference would be in how you approach your nutrition. Yep, one goal simply involves being leaner or having a lower body fat percentage than the other, but both involve having muscle. So if your main goal is to gain muscle mass, then you can set yourself either at maintenance calories or a bit of a surplus to set your body in the best environment possible to build muscle, but without any potential fat loss occurring. If your main goal is to become toned and defined, then you can set yourself in a deficit to lose enough body fat until the separation between your muscles become visually clear. For many, or even most people who want to develop seriously impressive muscle tone and definition, it is often worth spending a good chunk of time focused on building muscle mass or spending time in at least a bit of a surplus to really put some muscle on their frames. Upon doing so, the added foundation of muscle will probably look more impressive or lead to even sharper tone and definition upon spending time in a deficit. You might be wondering, but can't you just build muscle in a deficit? Yes, most people can. And again, it's best to spend your time working out with the intention of building muscle, just like when working towards the main goal of purely building muscle mass. But it's still faster and more efficient for the body to build muscle in a surplus compared to a deficit. So in the grand scheme of things, it's probably a worthy investment of your time and energy to spend some time in a surplus. And there you have it. The best way to work out for either building muscle mass or developing your muscle tone and definition is the same in both instances. Rather, the main difference between whether you're focusing on building muscle mass or muscle tone and definition boils down to how lean you are. So the key differences in approach are going to be found with your diet, more so than your workouts. At this point, I'd love to know your feedback. Let me know your questions, comments, and insights in the comment section below. Before this video comes to a close, I want to quickly let you know about the work that I do. When I'm not making YouTube videos or Instagram content, I work full-time as an online physique coach, where I help my clients to accomplish their muscle growth and fat loss goals by optimizing their approach to strength training and nutrition, and I coach them through the process. I've been doing this work for over 7 years and love helping my clients to not only transform their bodies, but ultimately their lives. If you've been considering getting some help with accomplishing your own physique goals, feel free to hit the link in the description below, where you can learn a little bit more about the work that I do and how it can help you. You can even use that link to schedule a free video consultation with me. If you have any questions about my coaching or how I can help you, just email me at sam@jadeathletics.ca. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.